So I made a couple of modifications to engine number 21 off camera. They weren't too hard to do. I didn't really feel like recording them, but I still thought I should somewhat document them. So here we are with a kind of just quick update video explaining what I've done. So first of all, snowplow. I took that off. Um, the problem with the snowplow is you cannot couple up two cars with it. There is a coupler pocket. There is the space for a coupler, and as you can see, I've got a coupler in there right now. But the problem with it is that coupler, the pocket at the very least, is way too high. And even if you have an overset shank, which means that the coupler will be riding lower than the pocket is, just a little bit lower, it still will not line up with coupler height gauges and will be like only half connected to a car at best. And I really want my engines to be functional. I want them to be bidirectionally functional. So I want this engine to be able to pull the train forward or pull it backwards, you know? And unfortunately, the snowplow just won't accommodate that. Oh, I'm gonna save that snowplow for probably a Christmas project next year. It's not hard to get another mogul down the line. So at first what I did was I replaced it with this little Shapeways, the original pilot that I had for this engine. This Shapeways 3D printed, BVLC, what's it called? Switcher's pilot. And I had two problems with this pilot. One of them is that the little footsteps on both sides, I actually broke them off and I had to super glue them back in place. It's very fragile, and that just irks me. It's really a minor thing, but still, it annoys me to no end. But my other main problem with it, that light bulb has been doing that a lot. Sorry for the change in lighting. The other main problem I have with this is how far out the coupler pocket sticks. It feels like for a pilot that's supposed to be kind of short and simple, that coupler pocket is extremely long and bulky. I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. And so what I recently had to order some components for my father's birthday gift, which was a mogul. And in doing so, I went to another 3D print shop. I went to the Cumberland shops rather than using Shapeways. The Cumberland shops on Etsy, and one of the things that they have for moguls is a switcher's pilot, and that's what I'm currently using. And it's how do I put this? If you look at the old pilot, you can kind of see that the actual depth of the pilot isn't very thick. Let me see if I can take this off real quick, because I know it's not held in place by... yeah, that was easy. You can see, if we compare these two side by side, just how much thicker the Cumberland Shops design is compared to the BVLC one. And because of this, the coupler pocket doesn't stick out anywhere near as much as the old one does. So I think I'm gonna stick with this new coupler, or this new pilot. I'm not sure if I'm going to repaint it or not. I actually kind of like it just being basic black, because the original red pilot that I put on was a little too flashy and too distracting in my opinion, but whatever. I like the new pilot. I like the larger depth. Maybe I'll repaint it. Right now I'm satisfied without repainting it. I am a little bit sad that we can't really use the snowplow anymore because of that coupler issue, but well, you win some, you lose some, and I'm sure we'll find a good home for this snowplow. The other thing I did was added more coal to the tender. One of the problems with the original coal pile in the tender was I was using HO scale coal, which is pretty fine and pretty small, you know, because this ON30 is 1 to 48, which is much larger than 1 to 87.1, or I think that's what HO is, right? And so, because there are these little gaps in the boards that I put for the bunker extension on the tender, the HO coal was so small that it was slipping between those cracks. But a while back, I actually... this will play into something later in the video, hold on. I have another mogul that I've been working on for a while. Okay, that's a lie. I haven't been working on it for months. It's had very minor issues, and I just haven't bothered to fix them. But that mogul came with a packet of coal, of O-scale coal, and it's obviously because this person had used it to amplify the engine before they decided to sell it. And so, since we got this packet of O-scale coal, I thought I would try using it in the tender of number 21, and I think it turned out great. Instead of using Elmer's glue diluted with water, we decided to use Mod Podge for this. I don't know why we didn't use it the first time around, to be frank. But we used some Mod Podge, let it settle into the coal pile, and now the tender, instead of looking like it's half empty, looks like it's filled to the brim. And I really like that because it helps to add to the, again, that sort of industrial aesthetic, or workhorse aesthetic that I'm trying to go with number 21. Now that I mention it, I feel like I could probably add a few other details to this engine to really drive home the workhorse aesthetic, but for now, those are the two changes that we've made, and I'm happy with where this engine is. Kind of visually. I think in the next month or two, I'm really going I'm really going to try hard to get some sound in this engine, to get DCC and sound, because as I've mentioned, as I was showing just a moment ago, I do have another mogul that I've been working on. And this new one that I has been finished for 3 months visually, has DCC and sound on it. And since the new mogul is going to be number 22, I figure I want to have digital command control on number 21 at the very least, so that I can run both 21 and 22 together. They're sisters, come on now. We gotta unite them somehow, right? Now, the thing with number 22, however, is it has some electrical issues. The speakers were not soldered in. They were literally taped on. The wires to the speakers were, for whatever reason, taped in place. The pickups, we need to clean the wheels, and the headlight is damaged. Once we fix those issues, I think that engine will be ready to go, and I can I can show more than just a random tender. I mean, admittedly, I could show more than just a random tender at any time that I felt like it, but, you know, I like suspense. I like build-up. I like not showing you guys things, and showing them to supporters on the Discord. But once that engine's fixed, I'm going to try and fix this one up. Give her sound, give her DCC, and maybe we could run a doubleheader. It's a kind of silly idea, considering that I only have 6 finished freight cars. Okay, I guess I also have these 18-footers, but 6 fully painted freight cars like this box car back here, but it's an idea. So the other thing I'd like to talk about today is a question about the layout. If you've been around for a while, you'll know that the original track plan I had was L-shaped, and it was point to point. I have seriously redesigned the layout because I've come to realize that as I paint up these trains, like this little caboose over here, I want a place to display them. I want a place to show them off. I want a place to mindlessly run the trains and be proud of my work. And the L-shaped layout wouldn't allow for that. I could run the trains, but not mindlessly. And so that's why I've designed a little bit of a loop. I consider a loop of track to be a novelty, but I have designed some very intricate operations on this layout. And so let's just go through a little tour. We got a track over here. This is like a yard track out on the outside. Um, I guess it's a yard track. That's the best way I can describe it. Operationally, it's going to be like a quote unquote interchange. I know that narrow gauge railroads didn't often have interchanges, but functionally, it's going to be an interchange. But visually, I think it's going to be a very basic yard area. Where the 060 is over here is going to be an engine facility. It's going to have like a little water tower and a coaling dock. And that locomotive is about as far back as the track will extend. And it'll come off of the main line. This switch right here will be a Y, and it'll split off to a track that runs behind this little passenger station, which I haven't shown off on camera before, but it's an AMB kit. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm really sad that AMB has closed as of the time of recording this video, but this was a fun little build. Maybe I'll have a video on this. Maybe I won't. I don't know, but I'm proud of how this turned out. We'll have a switch off over here that runs off to the yard track. The line will come around, and there will be a little river scene off in the foreground here. Just to add some nice height variation. And the train is sort of following where the tracks will go. There'll be a switch back here with an industry off and over here. I'm not sure what kind of industry this is going to be. This is probably going to be a warehouse or a freight house or something. Oh, right, that reminds me. Where that boxcar is by the passenger car, that's going to be a team track. It's going to be a very interesting scene to build in such a tight and cramped space because there's the edge of the module or section right there. And trying to fit it in on the other side of the car might be a bit of a headache too because of how close the track is. Anyways, the last point here is the main line will then curve around and continue on. There will be a little cut over there to separate the yard track from the main, and to add some visual height or depth to the layout, kind of like how the river allows you to see the train going above something. The cut will allow you to see something going above the train. So that is the basic layout plan, but there's one last thing that I would like to talk to you about and something I'd like some input on. Where these two high side gondolas are is where the big industry of the line is going to be. This entire switchback area is going to be the big industry. Here's the problem. I don't know what I want. Right now, I have two ideas for what we could put here, and both of them don't really fully satisfy me yet. Like, both of them are cool ideas, but they both have flaws. So, idea number one is a mine. Obviously, that is why we have these high side gondolas on display. Because this is what would carry like ores and stuff from the mine. I do not know why my camera is tilting. I hate this. And that's a very simple, straightforward idea that would add a nice bulk commodity to serve on the line. However, I also feel like it's not exactly the most creative thing. I feel like I've seen a lot of O&30 layouts that serve mines of some kind. Mines and logs. Those are the two big things. And so mines feel a little bit uncreative to me. The problem is logs is the other idea for what I should do here. Except the logs are a lot more complicated than the mine idea is. Because with the logs, this is clearly not a logging railroad. Because if we take a step back here, you've obviously got a team track, you've obviously got that warehouse, and with the cars selection that we have, this is more of a common carrier than anything. It is not a logging centric railroad. This isn't something where you'd see a Shay or a Climax geared engines running up and down the hills carrying only logs. But my father had an interesting idea, and that was log transloading. Say we have like a pile of logs just up here between the main line and this switchback, or something like that. Maybe we have like a truck with logs on it and at a little loading dock of some kind. Now the reason that we're considering this idea is because the location of the big industry is right by where the river scene is going to be. I know I don't really have much of a visual for the river scene. Just trust me on this. And so the idea here is we would have trucks delivering logs, and we would have logs floating down the river that would then be transloaded into a little pile and then loaded onto the train, and then the train would take it off to the interchange or whatever, which I know isn't the most creative place to take logs, but eh. Now that's an awesome idea, but there's a couple of problems with it. Now, one, obviously, as I mentioned before, logging and mining are kind of the two big things that I feel like I've seen the most of out of W&30, and so it's not really the most unique thing, but that's kind of a moot point when my other idea is the other least unique idea that I could have for a major commodity to serve. But the main problem that my father and I are having with this is if the logs are being transloaded from the river, there's a main line in the way between where the river is and where the logs go to stay before they're loaded onto the train. And that kind of, it feels like it defeats the purpose in a way. It feels like it's just extra complication that wouldn't be realistic. But then again, as a wise man once said, you don't always want to make things realistic. You just want to make them believable. Now that I've mentioned it, though, I just remembered another point in favor of the mines. I legitimately forgot about this, which is if we did coal, like is in this high side gondola, well, there's going to be a coal dock over here where the engine facility is. And that, instead of having the engine facility just be a display track for whatever engine I want to show off at whatever time, it'll also make the engine facility into a legitimate industry, because now you have to get coal from the mine and bring it back to the coal dock. So it adds a little extra operational intrigue when you're actually running the layout. And I've got this idea of how to use the loop of track to help extend the mainline run and make it so that you have to go around the loop a certain amount of times to deliver to a certain industry, etc., etc. So operationally, while mines aren't the most interesting visually, operationally they do add extra depth. While logging, while operationally wouldn't add anything, it would add a little bit of extra depth visually. Really, I don't know what I should do here. I don't know exactly what kind of vibe I'm going for, and I kind of want some community input. Maybe some of you would prefer to see the high side gondolas. Maybe some of you would, or sorry, the high side gondolas filled to the brim with coal, or maybe some other ore type. It could be something like gold, could be silver, could be copper. There was something here in Oregon that was commonly shipped that was red. I don't remember what it's called though. It was red and it was partially see-through. That could be another interesting idea. Or maybe you're somebody who prefers to see bulkhead flats and stake flats filled to the brim with cordwood and logs. Or maybe you're somebody who has a better idea for some major industry type that I could put here that would be visually interesting, not too hard to build, yeah, and could be operationally interesting maybe. I don't know. Maybe somebody's more creative than I am and can provide their expertise and input in the comment section below. um, Whatever the case, any input on this industry would be much appreciated. And I hope you have enjoyed this random, rambly video of me just talking about things that I've done. Hopefully, we'll be track laying soon. We do have all the tracks, actually. We have, they're on the floor right now. We have all the pieces of track we need. We just need to finalize the river scene. We're going to cut the bench work a little bit. We need to get the wiring done. I guess we also have to, lay the track. And we do need to nail down the tops of these 2x4s onto their frames, but project's coming along. I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. Thank you to everybody who gives advice, even if that advice is literally just liking somebody else's comment. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, folks.